Welcome to episode 70 of Everything Sports with Aman and Evan. I'm your host, Aman Adkarni,
And I'm your co-host, Evan Garber.
and we talk about the hottest topics in sports that occurred in the past week. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about the MLB All Star, specifically Shohei Ohtani, the struggling Mets, and then maybe Mike Trout. And then we are going to move to the NBA free agency world. NBA free agency opens this Friday, June 30th at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I mean, if the rumors are hearing were true, and with the trades that have already happened so far, I cannot wait for free agency to start. There will be a live stream from 11 a.m. Pacific time to around noonish for just our thoughts on free agency, just a free agency specific live stream. You guys can ask us questions and just tune in Friday. It will be announced on all social media platforms that you see on screen right now, so make sure to follow us on those platforms. But without further ado, let's get it started with the MLB All Star segment. Evan, start us off.
Yeah, first we'll start off with Shohei Ohtani, who was absolutely insane yesterday, arguably his best game of his career so far, striking out 10 batters and also hitting 2 home runs in the exact same game, taking MLB lead for home runs. I mean, this guy is just absolutely insane. Like we've talked about, I mean, this guy should be a unanimous MVP lock every single season, unless you have a year like last year where Judge or someone else has a historic season. I mean, this guy's unlike anything we've seen before. Unfortunately, he is on a team that's not necessarily a contender. I mean, they're a good team right now, but not a great team right now. The Los Angeles Angels, I mean, they do have Mike Trout, but aside from that, they're a little bit of an iffy team. But I mean, that guy is absolutely insane. He's definitely right away with MVP this year. And then the National League side, you have Acuna with guys like Corbin Carroll and Luis Ariz sort of in that mix. They can definitely argue it for either one of those three, but Acuna definitely is the MVP right now in my eyes. He's going absolutely berserk for that Braves team, and he definitely deserves that guaranteed spot in the All Star game this year, I believe.
I mean, I agree with all your points. Shohei Ohtani, we haven't seen anything like him before. Obviously, he had an amazing season last year, but when you have something historic like what Aaron Judge did, you give the MVP to Aaron Judge, to be honest. I don't want it to turn into like a Jokic and Embiid situation where Ohtani just gets the MVP over someone else just because, but it's not going to be like that situation because you literally cannot argue for anyone who should be over Shohei Ohtani in the American League. And I feel like we talked so much being about Mike Trout being one of the best players we've ever seen. I mean, his teammate Shohei Ohtani is could easily become the greatest baseball player of all time because baseball is the only sport where we don't really talk about a player's rings or championships won or team success, and that's how it should be because how is it a star's fault that another teammate doesn't perform or something like that? Because Shohei Ohtani, like you said, he struck out 10 batters and then got 2 homers in the same game. We've never seen a player like him before, period. And that automatically should make him one of the greatest players of all time. And obviously, on the National League side, it is a bit more challenging, but if I had an MVP vote, it would go to Ronald Acuna for sure. Because I mean, those Braves, they're amazing and they've locked in their core for a long time. So I feel like they're not gonna go anywhere. If they win the World Series this year, fine. If they don't, still fine because they've locked in players for a while now. And like I said, the MLB All Stars, there are going to be snubs like there is in all sports for the All Star team. So we'll see what happens, but just do you have any more to add to this baseball segment?
Yeah, and I actually want to go through a little bit of All Star ballot that I have so far for the starters. Uh, I feel like a lot of them are pretty much locks at this point. But for me, for the outfield in the American League, I think it's a little bit questionable. I think that Mike Trout unfortunately does not belong there. I think it has to be Randy Rosarena, Aaron Judge, and Yordan Alvarez. I mean, Mike Trout, of course, is having a good season, but I think compared to those three guys, he's just not having as great of a season. And then, of course, we have the struggling Mets. The Mets are just in complete shambles right now. Steve Cohen's gonna talk to the media today. We'll see what he has to say about the huge struggles. They do have one guy on the All Star ballot, Francisco Lindor, but I don't think he has any chance. He has some good numbers other than his batting average. Batting average is completely terrible compared to all his other All Stars. I think Orlando Arcia definitely deserves it over them. And then, of course, one other trend we see here is, of course, the Atlanta Braves. Like you said, the Atlanta Braves are playing absolutely insane baseball right now. They're playing very, very great. I think that they definitely deserve all these names that are on here on the All Star ballot. And last but not least, I want to talk about the National League outfield. And I don't think that Betts deserves it over the two Diamondbacks. Honestly, I think the Diamondbacks do deserve those two All Stars and Corbin Carroll and Lourdes Gurriel Jr. Um, I just think that you have to have at least two All Stars for them because that team is just. I mean, of course they look at Zach Gallen, but that team is just doing crazy, crazy things. We didn't see it coming at all. Especially at the tough division when you have the Dodgers, Dodgers, the Padres, and the Giants, who are all great teams on paper at least at the moment. I think that you have to have multiple Diamondbacks in that All Star game. And Betts, he's having a good season, but just nothing compared to Gurriel and Corbin Carroll, who are carrying that Diamondbacks team to the first place in the National League West right now.
I I agree with what you said, and I mean, obviously, a lot of people like Mike Trout, rightfully so. He's still an amazing player. Aaron Judge he might make it initially, but someone else will be his replacement because it's seeming like his injury is more significant than we thought. And I mean, I agree with what you said, to be honest, all your thoughts. And I mean, the New York Mets, they've just been a struggle bus really all season. It started with, to be honest, before the season during the World Baseball Classic when Edwin Diaz, their closer, um, got a season-ending injury while celebrating, and then after that, it seems like it's just going downhill. And now we're hearing reports of Max Scherzer welcoming a trade only if it's to a team that has a chance to win a World Series. So there's all this drama going on around the New York Mets, and we'll see what happens because I don't think. I mean, the Yankees started struggling, the Mets started struggling. I don't think anyone saw any of this coming, and I feel like the league seems to be more balanced in terms of team record this year than I feel like recent years. So I feel like it makes for a great MLB season. But without further ado, let's go to the NBA free agency. We've already seen Bradley Beal get moved to the Suns, Porzingis to the Celtics, Marcus Smart to the Grizzlies, Jordan Poole to the Wizards, Chris Paul to the Warriors. Obviously, you've heard our thoughts on all those trades. But, I mean, the Porzingis trade, I like it for the Celtics, but they might need a guard now that can. Honestly think that they might need someone like Dylan Brooks, to be honest. Like, we might not like Dylan Brooks as Warriors fans or whatever, but I mean, he brings the heart out onto the court every game, to be honest. Like, I'm not gonna just let my hate get in the way of like honest thoughts or whatever, but Marcus Smart, he was the heart and soul of the Celtics. He won a Defensive Player of the Year as a guard. Gary Payton was the previous guy to do that before Marcus Smart did it. So now Smart might flop and make it like pretty egregiously, but I feel like at times he puts in the extra effort. Like there's that play where he lunged out of bounds and threw the ball at Kawhi Leonard's leg, and it became Celtics ball. So now you're missing that. Porzingis just needs to get healthy because now with the new CBA deals and stuff, a player can only be eligible for certain awards if they play 65 games or more. That entails that they can only miss a max of 17 games. And I feel like that's fair to discourage load management, but when a player is out for like say a month because of some injury but still did historic things, they won't be eligible for votes. So I feel like there's loopholes in that sense. But going back to Kristaps Porzingis, could he be in the run for most improved player or all star? We don't know because he was a borderline all star last season, but there were so many like first time all stars or people that deserved it over him, to be honest. And the Grizzlies, they get the vet that they desperately needed. John Morant obviously out for 25 games to start the season, but I like the trade for the Grizzlies. Losing Tyus Jones is definitely a huge loss. And then pairing him with Jordan Poole, Jordan Poole can finally be the first option on a team. He can get as many shots up as he wants. I know when Clay got the 54 points against the Hawks, Poole got up 31 shots. So I feel like Poole's scoring will definitely go up. I wouldn't be surprised if he's an all-star soon. I just feel like at a certain point when we needed him to do better in his role, obviously now the Draymond punch put everything off. And I feel like it's not like we're choosing favorites here. It's just a matter of who affects winning more. I feel like the Warriors without Draymond, they wouldn't really compete. The Warriors without Jordan Poole, they still can compete. And I think that's what it came down to. I do expect the Warriors to re-sign Draymond Green. We'll obviously see what happens. But Chris Paul, I do think we could have gotten a better player for Jordan Poole, 1000%. But Chris Paul obviously got a few more left on him. I feel like it's a move to maximize the championship window in Golden State. But Chris Paul, he's the stabilizing factor we needed on our bench because so many times Poole would increase the pace. Even though we're one of the fastest teams in basketball, Poole would unnecessarily increase the pace and try to do too much. Whereas Chris Paul, he will be that stabilizing force. He will play fast when he needs to, but he's more methodical with how he does everything. So I think that's the player we need potentially off the bench if he accepts a bench role, because even if Looney accepts the bench role, which he normally does, there's still a glaring weakness with our big man front. We need to sign a great power forward or center, either off the bench or just like a great rotational piece who's like big and can get us rebounds. Like maybe DeMarcus Cousins, Dwight Howard. There's a lot of quality big men out there on the market. So, and then we'll get into the rumors later in this episode too. But what are your thoughts on everything that's happened sort of pre-free agency?
I really agree with everything that you said, but I mean, for the Marcus Smart and Porzingis deal, I mean that trade is just honestly so great for both the Celtics and the Grizzlies. Both teams get honestly better defensively. The way I see it, I mean, we had Brogdon last year who had a great defensive year, and then when you have so you have that, you have sorry Derek White, sorry you, but you still Brogdon is also a good defender too. But Brogdon, Derek White, Tatum, uh, obviously Al Horford, Robert Williams, Kristaps Porzingis. I mean that team is very very good defensively, and even Jason Tatum and both Jaylen Brown, they're both good defenders. So that team is going to be pretty darn good. Both can do it really well on both ends of the court. And then the Grizzlies, like you said, they get the veteran presence that they needed. But you also now have two players of the year on that team, alongside John Morant. Um, that team is also going to be very good defensively. We'll see how they do stack up though with John Morant out. I do think that'll be a struggle for a little bit because you don't have that guy that gets you 30 or 40 uh, on any night. Like it's going to be a little bit tough at the beginning of the year, but I think they can steal some wins and stay a little bit close in the competition. I don't think they're contenders yet, but I do think that that team is still a great team. And then the Chris Paul deal, I was definitely skeptical at first. I didn't exactly understand it from the Warriors standpoint. Like you said, the Warriors could have gotten more, I think, for Jordan Poole. I don't think Chris Paul is a bad ad for the Warriors. I just don't think it made a whole lot of sense considering what he gave up and the fit that he has in the Warriors. If they do start him, I I'm not a huge fan of that starting lineup. But they do bench him. He will be a good sixth man, but considering everything he traded for a bigger contract, I just don't understand completely from the
And a
Warriors.
way older player.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I do trust in the Warriors front office, but I just don't think it's exactly the greatest move for the Warriors.
I agree. I don't like the starting lineup with Chris Paul in it because they play at an insane pace. I feel like Chris Paul would make sense to play like 25 to 30 minutes maybe off the bench because he'll be a stabilizing factor for that bench. Whereas the starter, he'll slow the pace down and might actually have a negative effect because it's not like we could do crazy pick and rolls because we don't have that big man. Like we could make a run at JaVale McGee, like get him back. Like just lob threats at the rim are who we need. And if we actually get Dwight Howard, there's going to be so much beef on the team because obviously we know what happens between him, Chris Paul, and the Warriors and everything like that. But now free agency, we could see Damian Lillard potentially being traded. The Blazers have said they want to build a team that's competing around him, and they've said that year after year, and for the life of me, I don't understand why Damian Lillard still supports that front office because you drafted Scoot Henderson. That was a great pick. Like he's the most talented player in this draft class, in my opinion, other than obviously Wembanyama. But I mean, as a point guard, he's strong. He's insanely athletic. Like he's what you want in a point guard. And so you could keep Anthony Simons, trade Damian Lillard for like a lot of picks, decent players, and just start the rebuild. Like you saw the trade Dame guy that showed up at the NBA draft. Like the Blazers fans at this point, I feel like want to rebuild, want Damian Lillard to go somewhere where he could win a ring. Potentially the Milwaukee Bucks if they move on from Drew Holiday, if they trade Drew Holiday in the deal and not re-sign Chris Middleton. Damian Lillard and Giannis, that could be a dangerous duo that could potentially win Dame a ring. Or if he goes to Miami, Miami will automatically be the best Eastern Conference team. Period. Plain and simple. Damian Lillard, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, that will be Dame's best chance at a ring. I feel like if the Blazers somehow bring in Draymond Green, keep Jeremy Grant, that's not going to be enough to win a ring. Plain and simple. Like just signing Damian Lillard's friends, that'll keep Dame happy, but I feel like we all know that won't make him compete. As for Draymond Green, he's taking calls from other teams, but the expectation is he re-signs with the Warriors because I feel like he realizes that it's dangerous guarding Stephen Curry when you're on the opposite team and the chemistry that he'll have with the vets, I feel like now that Jordan Poole is gone, the locker room will be more better. And I'm not supporting Draymond punching Poole at all. That never should have happened. We all know that. But I feel like now the weird like energy between Draymond Green and Jordan Poole will be gone, and I feel like that will open up a lot of chemistry. And going back to Chris Paul, there's a statistic where he's made teams better every time he's gotten traded. And so if that's especially true, I feel like Draymond will definitely stay. And I feel like Chris Paul's like just salary per year might be bigger, but his contract isn't fully guaranteed like Jordan Poole. So it did still save the Warriors cap space. The Warriors still have 3 roster spots. Obviously, Draymond is expected to re-sign. We'll see what happens there, but I feel like he will re-sign. And the Suns with Beal, we've talked about it in the shorts and episodes. That's just they're in a weird situation because all the free agents they could sign are literally veteran minimum players. And people might go to Suns to ring chase and whatever, but there's just they're not going to have great bench depth. The only players under contract, Bradley Beal with an insane $50 million contract, and Durant and Booker have their contracts. No one's arguing about that. And then just Ayton. And even if they trade for Tobias Harris, he's getting paid damn near $40 million here too. So anywhere you look, the Suns are heavily strapped by the cap space. And even with Beal, they need to find chemistry. They still didn't find chemistry with Booker and KD, and obviously Chris Paul is not there anymore, and Ayton because of KD's injury. I'm not blaming that on him, but there's going to be a lot of chemistry that you'll need to build over the offseason to have success in the regular season, and then obviously the playoffs if they have any hopes. But what are your thoughts on the potential free agency news we could be seeing, trades, rumors, and all that?
Yeah, I mean, considering everything that we've already seen, I'm really, really hyped for this offseason. Could see so many big moves, and obviously the big free agents, free agent domino is James Harden. Who knows what James Harden is going to do? Uh, there's a lot of rumors. Of course, there were rumors that he could go to the Rockets. He could stay in Philadelphia. Um, I've heard some people say he could go to like the Spurs or something. I don't understand that at all. But
Yeah,
who really knows? I mean, there's a lot of options for him, but I think that domino is definitely an interesting piece because it it doesn't really seem like he fits that well on a contending team other than the 76ers, but just with what's happening so far, who knows if he'll stay there. I think that he should stay in the 76ers because it's probably his best chance to win a ring. And they just need to add some more complementary pieces, trade Tobias Harris and add those complementary pieces for Harden and Embiid. But if he does want to go to the Rockets, I mean, good for him. I just don't understand it. Like, why would you want to go to a team that's young and developing? I guess you can teach them, but when you're kind of in the hopping conversation, you don't have a ring yet. Like, I feel like you'd want to chase that ring and stay on the Sixers or a team like that. They help you win a ring.
yeah, I agree. I mean, Sixers are his best chance to win a ring with the years he has left. Houston, that there's the whole parting scene, which he got distracted to, which forced him out of Houston, obviously. But I feel like if it's truly that, I mean, the Rockets just drafted, I believe it was Amen Thompson. Yeah, Amen Thompson to be their future guard, potentially replacing Kevin Porter Jr. We'll see what happens with him. Yes, you can teach these young guys, but you've always said you want to win a ring, and I feel like this is when you maximize that chances. You're not going to win a ring in Houston. I can somewhat understand the Spurs. It still doesn't make sense because you still won't compete. They have a lot of young guys which will eventually develop. Like I won't be surprised if the Spurs compete again in like 2 to 3 years because Wembenyama, let's just say, will buy into his hype, and Wembenyama is gonna be great. And I feel like that pick and roll will be crazy if James Harden goes to the Spurs, but it's very unlikely, and I don't think he fits. So I agree. I know Tobias Harris just got mad with all the rumors going on, but I feel like that's a player you trade for complementary pieces to surround Harden and Embiid and get the Sixers out of the second round, especially with the new head coach in Nick Nurse. So with that, that ends episode 70 of Everything Sports with Aman and Evan. Thank you for tuning in today on this Wednesday afternoon. And join us from 11 to 12 on Friday's NBA Free Agency special live stream. Have a great day.